David Cross is coming up. Is he here?
I saw him in the bathroom, so whenever he wants
You did.
I just saw him.
Let's bring him
Here
in.
he comes in.
Who is this, Killer Mike?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
I'll have to play it later.
Yeah.
We'll have to play it later, man. That was Pendulum by Stephen Carr.
Foundry was the band.
Yes, it was, but Stephen Carr was the singer.
Live,
we
live.
are on the air, yes.
Live, live.
Good to see you, pal.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
What's going on, man?
How you doing, buddy?
Good. What are you doing?
Just hanging out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jim.
just in New York doing my stuff and came by
I
to
had
see
no
these
idea.
guys. Yeah.
I always like when I see comedian, when I'm walking in for an interview, I always like when there's comics in there for some reason. I just feel more comfortable if I'm like, it's just me and the fucking crew. It's like, ugh.
Oh, yeah.
I always like when there's another act there at least.
When it's just me and the crew, it's just ugh.
It's awful, right? It's terrible.
Ugh.
Fucking crew.
Because they want you to be funny, but they don't understand. Like, their energy is shitty. You can't be
Yeah.
funny with just one or two people who are just kind of looking at you. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm like,
but there is a diminishing returns when you get more and more and more comics in there. You
It
can't
can be.
hear. You can't. Everybody's talking over themselves. You can't hear It's all competitive. You know.
it can get like that, yeah.
So I would suggest getting rid of Doug for the next hour, and then he can come back. Or
Yeah.
tweet something. Doug, tweet
Okay.
what we're doing.
So how have things been, man? I mean, you've had a kind of an interesting couple of months.
Yeah, it's been I'm on the upside, but it's some personal stuff and and professional stuff and social media stuff, and it all just happened at once. But it's getting better.
Did you think at any point? I'm happy you guys are on Netflix. Was there any point where you guys were worried, like, oh, they might just pull the plug and panic, or did you kind of know that they wouldn't?
I wouldn't say that I was 100% solid that they wouldn't, but I mean I'm friendly with Ted, and we talked a couple of times, and I know some of the other folks are, and I never got the sense that they would do that. They canceled a bunch of the publicity stuff that was coming directly after that. That was all canceled, and I mean that's the way things are now, and I don't think they'll ever go back to being kind of what they were. And part of what everybody's learning is when something like that happens, and you have no control over 100 million people yelling, you recede a little bit, let it calm down. It'll never completely go away, but you let it calm down, because there will be something else to replace that outrage, whether it's sincere or faux. Roseanne thing happened, I think 48 hours, 72 hours later, something like that. And then, barely anybody was, and especially, I guess, in a relative sense, it was not as, not perceived, not as horrifically as what, Roseanne did. And then there's something else 2 days after that.
Isn't it weird too? Like whenever you're in a problem on Twitter, which is like, and we've all said shit where people get pissed off, and it's this overwhelming avalanche. And even though you're a stand-up and you've been screamed at, there are moments where you're like, holy fuck! Like it can get you at moments. No matter how jaded to it you are, there are moments where you're like, oh my god, this is fucking overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, it's hatred, and sometimes it's violent, and then there's also the frustration of this feeling of like, Jesus, is what I did really that terrible and warrants this kind of outrage?
Right.
And then that's coupled with an overall depressive feeling about who we are, what we become, and it's depressing, it's like there's no conversation anymore. It's just fuck you.
Yeah.
What was the dynamic of that interview? Obviously, what we've been talking about is the group cast interview that you guys all did promoting
For the Times.
Arrested Development.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the picture of us putting the Nazi cookies in the oven.
No. Was that you guys doing?
Yeah, that was the whole cast got together. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, in hindsight, that had to be looked at as a
Yes.
mistake. That's but like it read, as you read the transcripts and stuff, I'm like, it read almost like it devolved pretty quickly into this odd group therapy session thing.
Yes, it was. And let me say, I went back and I definitely have a different feeling about it now, having read it, and remembering it than I did in the moment. In the moment, it didn't seem so egregious, and I definitely get the um, the criticism. I truly do. And I said, I think, I said this early on, and I'm now going to rescind it. But initially, I was like, I think we got what we deserved, but then, now I think
It was too much.
it's
Yeah,
way too
it
much,
continued to
but-
get much, much worse. And
Yes.
you're like, we don't still deserve this
Don't you
anymore.
hate when they think they know the motives? That's the hardest part, when people are saying, you did this for this reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, that's not why I did
Well,
it.
that started way before that kind of thinking. And I don't know what to call it, but it's where you you have this somebody, and it would be in that's just since the advent of kind of internet chat room stuff, where a person would posit a theory on anything, whatever. I mean, it could be, that's a good example, or even just something that, you participated in, or a show you wrote, and why did they do this thing, or whatever the thing is. And then somebody on the thread posits this theory, and that just becomes fact.
Right.
And you're like, no, that's not, or a joke. I had jokes misinterpreted. And then people, especially when you see a joke in print, which you know how awful that is.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
And then somebody will put that in, and it's kind of paraphrased. It's not even, you're taking something that you've crafted that has, there's a reason why you worded it that way. There's cadence, there's tonality, there's, all that kind of stuff that goes into a joke and telling a joke. And then it's put on, somebody writes it out.
And puts quotes around the wrong part of it to emphasize what they didn't like about it.
And then somebody posits this theory, and then that's just the rest of the thread is this assumption that is completely false, and that people are getting pissed off at that thing. And I think you can extrapolate that into where we are currently, especially with social media and stuff. And that's just one of the several ways. And I don't want to. I'm not, bitching or playing the victim. That's just where we are now. And I have learned some lessons from this thing. And as I said, if you look back at it, you can see like, oh wow, we really are jumping over, talking over Jessica. And I know why we did it. I know why we said the things we said. But one of the lessons I've learned is nobody gives a shit about your context. Nobody.
They don't.
If there's a crying woman in the room, or whoever, if there's somebody crying, nobody cares about your butts or any context to the situation, which is, that's how it is now.
You can't intellectualize your way out of certain things.
Yeah, they hear what they want to hear.
Right.
So that's
What were you feeling at that moment? Like when that happened, you guys were just doing an interview, and then you see this thing happening, and somebody's upset, and it's getting, like, tension's okay, but this is like, whoa, this is uncomfortable. Like, I just, as a person on the show, what are you thinking? Like, how are you feeling in that moment?
Well, it was, I'm being very careful now because I don't want to
Sure.
Go through this shit again. I just got back on Twitter like yesterday
Right.
after taking a sabbatical, but God damn it. I don't know. I mean, there's stuff I'm happy to tell you off the air, but
I understand.
and I'm not trying to be funny.
No, I know
would
what
have
you're saying.
because then we could have a discussion. It would
No,
be a
this
discussion.
this now becomes a statement to the press on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
matter.
yeah.
as
And
opposed
I'm
to-
more just, I wasn't even asking about like what you said, because I know in those moments we feel a certain way, like, oh no, this,
Well, yeah,
it's
that's but
hard
dude,
sometimes.
Let me. I will say this: this wasn't a group of strangers. We have known each other and worked together for 15 years. We know each other's behavior patterns. It's not. This wasn't a room full of strangers,
Right.
And I think that there is. Well, I know I am privy to more information than anybody else is,
Sure.
except for the people in that room. Again, I don't think what we did was right, and I wouldn't. Hopefully, I won't do that again. I will stop and let the thing play out. And it was very quickly, as you were pointing out, it was kind of like, oh wow, we're in this psychotherapy session, which we should have been.
But
And
the conversation probably shouldn't have been done with an
no, of course
interviewer in
not.
the room,
no,
right?
Absolutely. And I, I wrote an email to Jessica. I know everybody else did, and we've all been talking. Again, we're friends. We don't wish anything but the best for everybody. There's no enemies there, and and occasionally in that kind of family, you have you have this outburst, and also what Jeffrey did wasn't cool. I mean, having an outburst is okay, but what it was, which nobody was there for, that wasn't cool. Like it's like, okay, enough. You said your piece,
Right.
but it wasn't. It went beyond that.
Sure.
But I know why. I know where it came from. I know it wasn't. Yeah, I'm giving you context. Nobody wants.
No,
to.
no, but it does matter, and to me,
No, it matters to us, but
Sure.
doesn't.
Right.
There are
People
people
don't care.
who don't care. They
But the
just don't care.
crucifixion,
It's
the
just
crucifixion
shut up.
of a reaction that's like if you guys didn't react perfectly because it was a moment that you didn't plan for.
Right.
What I took out of that whole thing was, regardless of what happened between them, regardless of what you said, it's how people crucify you if you don't react in a live moment 100% how in hindsight they think you should have reacted.
Yes.
Like, it's like a lot of times these aren't things you've had 2 days to think about and go, this is going to happen. Here's your reaction. Sometimes you're just trying to talk your way through it or trying to make it okay, and all of a sudden it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, and people act like your motives were to be shitty. And that's what I found was just so irritating about it.
Well, to be fair, I don't think a lot of the issues people had were that we were trying to be shitty. I think the gist of what I saw was, fuck these men. These are, look at, this is a very male thing, and because of what we said and how we did talk over her, it just became representative of this is what's wrong with men, and I think it was a little less of like, Bateman's an asshole, and there was
Right.
some of that stuff for Tony and myself and Jason, but it was mostly this is men, this is what we have to deal with, and of course we all got personal shit, but and it was also a bummer because we were happily, up until that moment.
Sure.
That was probably day 3 or 4 of doing stuff. We did stuff in LA, we did stuff here, and we were happily promoting this thing that we liked,
Sure.
that we all, and this was also referencing something that happened, I mean, half a year ago, and we moved on quickly.
That happened on this run though. It wasn't on prior. It was.
It was on this one. Yeah, we were
okay.
shooting. It was when we were shooting this series, and we were about halfway through the shoot, I think, roughly. And yeah, it wasn't an easy shoot, and it certainly wasn't easy for Jessica, who I have nothing but respect for. And she, like a lot of us, we're getting new pages. You're getting. I mean, it was not cool. As in, for an actor, it was a difficult time because for myriad of reasons I won't go into, but we'd get a script, they weren't done, you'd get something at night, it'd be fucking pages and pages of stuff, and then it would change later
Right.
on that night, and then you get in the morning and it'd be you'd have 2.5 new pages of long stuff.
Sure.
And that's hard for anybody.
Yeah.
But it's also harder when you're older, and it's not it's one of the things that added to the tension, and people weren't able to do the scenes correctly. And that was a big part of it. And everybody has trouble with it. And especially, if you're older, it's even more difficult. I remember, anyway, but
Getting all those new pages, and then if you're screwing it up, and then someone's
it's-
mad at you for screwing
Right,
it up,
the
it's like
whole
Jesus
thing.
Christ, how much that's hard to do.
well, in fairness, it wasn't about her screwing it up, but it's just tough.
Yeah.
It's tough for anybody, and it was a chaotic set, and but we're, again, I can't stress this enough, and because it's important, we all love each other. We've known each other. We want to work together again. I wish these things had been dealt with prior to the interview where it all started coming out. I take blame for that, for not, because I'm usually fairly good at going, okay guys, we need a timeout, and I mean, I'm just an actor in this show, but I've certainly directed plenty of things and produced things, and you should be, and I was cognizant of that. We need a break right now. We need to discuss this. Let's take 30 minutes and let's all go talk about this as friends and coworkers, and let's, but I never did that. Nobody did that. And I take blame for that. I should have, because I recognized it and I didn't do anything.
It really is funny watching people, not in reference to this specifically, but trying to grab headlines. As I was looking you up last night, Perez Hilton had this headline that was, David Cross awkwardly walks off of Stephen Colbert's show. And I watched it and I'm like, I can't believe this is
I
this
saw
is
a thing about that
story.
that said Stephen Colbert made David Cross cry.
Yeah.
Like they just print the headline like there's no comedy.
It's clickbait.
It's
and
so
that,
crazy.
And people, that wasn't planned. That was just, I'd known Stephen for a long time, and he's really one of the best improvisers. He doesn't get enough credit for his skill at that. And I just did that knowing it would be silly, and we had no idea where it was going to go or what was going to happen.
It was very clearly a bit, though, right?
But we didn't plan it out.
No,
we never
but
discussed it. Oh, it's absolutely
watching
a bit.
you guys are both having a good
I'm not
time.
going to cry because he mentioned somebody. What the,
That's how we should get some clickbait going, because the show is over soon. So we should say David Cross walks out of interview. We won't just say that it was the end of the show.
Right.
Then we'll get some. That is what they do, though. It's like, what are you talking about? That's not what happened. The show ended.
That's just clickbait, silly shit.
By the way,
really
David's
is
on tour.
hilarious.
Just so you know, he's here promoting. Oh, Come On tour.
Oh, God bless you, Jim.
Official DavidCross.com, and he's going to be here this Friday.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was the name of the website? Where do you go?
OfficialDavidCross.com.
Yeah, that's right. I just want say it one more time.
Oh, Twitter is David Cross with 3 S's.
Yeah, but if you want to go
Official DavidCross.com.
Yeah, that's where you go to get tickets. See
Oh,
where
absolutely.
I'm coming, to what city.
Friday, the Knitting Factory here in New York. It's going to be in Brooklyn. And Saturday, Columbus Theater in Providence. And then Sundays, the Wilbur, the Great Wilbur Theater in Boston.
Love Boston.
It's one of my favorite places to work.
absolutely. I shot a special there. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
I've shot 2 there. Where would you shoot? The Wilbur?
The Wilbur, yeah.
I went to the Somerville Theater, which I love.
Oh, I've been there.
That's a good
I've
room.
done shows there. I did Barry Crimmins got this whole night together with for Howard Zinn, and we did this huge show. It was really great.
Are you from Boston or no?
No, I lived there for 9 years. So
Okay, where
that's where I cut my teeth. Comedy wise, yeah.
Also, through David, dates for David through August, officialdavidcross.com. He's got gigs in Oregon, Seattle, Philly, Asbury Park.
It's got there's
Bunch.
there's a bunch.
Yeah.
There's tons.
How did Tobias end up making his cameo in the Avengers film? Because there's this scene when you go into the collector or whoever, when they're in all these glass containers and vials and bottles, you just see David's character from Arrested Development just in there.
Well, Joe and Anthony Russo, the Russo brothers who directed that movie, also directed. I forgot the name for a second. Arrested Development.
David refuses to say name of show.
And they really created the look and the template for that. And they were there for the first year directing, and they also directed the pilot for the Increasingly Poor Decisions of Todd Margaret, which I did over in London. And so I know them, and we've known them for a while. And I think they put I want to say they've done other Arrested. There's other Arrested things in there. I believe. Oh, the stair car is in somewhere. I'm not going to pretend that I don't know what you're talking about, because I've done enough of the answer that question enough. But I haven't seen the movie. Don't know.
You
the
didn't even
scene.
look up the scene or the photo from the scene or anything?
I haven't seen any of those movies.
Right.
If there's a cape, I'm usually far, far away.
Well, as long if you watch the first 10, then you'll be able to jump on this one easy. So it won't be an issue.
I just get burned by those things. Every year there's a new thing where people are like, no, I know you don't like this stuff, but this one is really great.
It's different.
And then you go and you're like, I remember Guardians of the Galaxy. I was really psyched to see that, and I bought into the hype. This turns it on its ear. It's And Chris Pratt's really great, and I like the stuff that they were doing that wasn't the superhero stuff. But then it was, half of the movie is still a guy in purple paint, with a big colic and the energy balls of gravitron or whatever, going, "We must, for the sake of our brethren," all that bullshit.
I'm happy you said that because I've never seen that movie, and these guys are always trying to tell me how great it is. I'm like, I know it's a pile of shit, and I don't want to see it.
I wouldn't say it's a pile of shit, but it's not going. You're not going to walk out of there. It's not like Deadpool,
Right.
where you're like, "Oh, that was fucking funny." That was just nothing but funny shit to wait.
I haven't seen that either.
It's good.
Oh, it's fun.
It's good.
But it is still at its core a superhero movie, so you can kind of like
but they're fucking with it all
Yeah.
the time,
Yes.
constantly.
If I asked you though to guess what is the plot, what happens in the middle, and how does it end, you could probably make a pretty safe bet about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's true.
They haven't been the same. Without Margot Kidder, I don't want to see a fucking
I know.
superhero film. She
I know.
was
That was a tough
what a
loss for you.
sexy Lois.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
a tough
yeah.
loss.
Fucking that drinking voice. She's
Yeah.
awesome.